Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM22. It's Journeyman. We're on episode 29. We are back, and completely unexpected because only a few days following the conclusion of the season, it's December the 29th. I think our final match was the 22nd or 23rd. I mean, it's been a week or just shy of a week. I really thought we might be reaching the end because nothing was happening. And where I got a boost for the Asian Cup run, and I came out of that with better attributes, better reputation, finishing third in the league, did nothing. My attributes are identical, my reputation is identical, and I was like, oh, okay. Alrighty then. I'll give it a little off-season time and kind of play through and see what happens, but that might have been it. But here we are. Here we are with a job opportunity, a very unexpected one. I had not been looking this direction, well, at all, until all of a sudden I saw the Belgium U19s job appear late last season. I think that was on camera. And I was like, oh, yeah, international. Sure, why not? Applied, nothing happened. But then all of a sudden, a week ago, as I concluded the season and I went back in and checked where the positions were available, just maybe 4 or 5 days ago, I applied for the Indonesian job. This is where I've been, and I've built myself a reputation in Indonesia. So why not apply for the Indonesian position? So the national team of Indonesia, and here they are offering me a job. Non-negotiable, just straight up $159K per year to take over as head coach of Indonesia. They want to qualify for the Asian Cup Qualifiers. So not to get into the Asian Cup, but just to make the qualifiers. That seems like a fairly easy task. And just like that, I am named the new national team coach in Indonesia. Surprise, surprise, foreigner. That actually makes a certain amount of sense. So I think I've mentioned it on this series earlier on because, well, I played in an Asian nation in terms of world football on the island of Saipan. For the Northern Mariana Islands, which that island is part of, their national team, they're headed by the Japanese Football Association. Japan, unlike so many other nations, knows and understands that for Japan to continue to get better, they need better opposition. They need better quality opponents. And so the Japanese focus is not only on improving their brand of football, but improving those around them so that they have quality opposition. They know that Asia, compared to Europe, as a direct example, is just not as good. Yes, Japan is good. Yes, South Korea is good. Okay, there's your list. Russia's okay. Iran puts up a fight here and there. Australia puts up a tiny fight here and there. But it's a very, very short list of quality, especially national teams or leagues across Asia. Now, the Northern Mariana Islands, like Australia, even though it's technically located in Oceania, is one of a handful that know and understand that Oceania lacks quality. Hence, New Zealand cruises their way to first place every year and then still doesn't qualify for the World Cup most of the time because they end up going up against, like this year's World Cup qualifiers, go up against the fourth place finisher in CONCACAF, as in whatever team out of, oh gosh, what is it? US, Mexico, Jamaica, Canada, whichever one ends up fourth. They play New Zealand, the winner of the Oceania region. And why? Because, well, first off, Australia opted to go into Asia because it's better competition. Because nations like the Northern Mariana Islands have opted to do the same. And so the quality of competition in Oceania is quite weak, and New Zealand cruises their way to winning every time, but then they're still not really good enough to qualify for the World Cup, at least in its current format. Upon expansion, that might change how that works. But anyway, Northern Mariana Islands is one of those nations that Japan has reached out to a lending hand. They have a lower level manager who is good enough to manage a club at maybe second division, or good enough to manage the lower youth ranks or be an assistant coach at the lower youth ranks of their national setup. But instead, to get experience, they send him out as the coach for the national team in the Mariana Islands. And that is their tactic to both get their top coaches experience and develop, but also develop some of those nations around them to be more competitive, to raise the level of competition. Well, anyway, I feel like the foreigner stepping into that role here as the Indonesian national coach. Yes, they have hired an American who has come on the scene and taken a team that was second division quality, got them out of the second division in just 1 year, and got them into the upper reaches of their top division, second and third place the last couple of years, to the final of the Asian Cup, farther than the other teams were going with that, even though we were clearly not the best team around. By the way, the Indonesian Player of the Year, I didn't even have anybody on the finalist list. The Indonesian Young Player of the Year, nobody on the finalist list. It was a who's who of the top 5-6 teams. Both of those. And yet 0 players from our team made that list. And yet we still managed to outscore what we had done the previous season, in which we had taken second place and did get in the mix and did get what would have qualified for the Asian Cup again, were it not for one of those other teams in the mix. One of those other teams that was clearly a notch above where we were or should be. If they hadn't won the Indonesian Cup, we would have again been playing in Asia this year. Now, I believe I still should be manager. I haven't done a national team job in a long time. In fact, I've only ever done a national team job in maybe the first couple years that I had picked up FM. So it's been over a decade since I've done a national team job. So here's to the first journeyman in ages, and now the first national team job in ages, and let's see how this one turns out. On behalf of everyone in the Indonesia setup, I would like to formally welcome you to the team. Please familiarize yourself with our helpful welcome pack. Before we move on to discuss the vision and objectives we will be collectively working towards, as I'm sure is also the case with you. We can't wait to get started. National team history, have done a little bit. AFC U19 Championship back in 1961. Southeast Asian Games football tournament, 87-91 Southeast Asian. That's where I think we are going to have the majority of our success. There you go, Southeast Asian Football Federation under 23 Youth Championship 2019. Merdeka tournament. No idea what that is, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's a Southeast Asian Games type tournament. 61, 62, and 69 winners. Southeast Asian under 19's Youth Championship in 2013. World ranking. Myanmar is above us in the world ranking. 1 point better. We are 134th. We are just above Rwanda and Nigeria. Wow. Okay, that is not a good ranking, and that is actually really surprising that Indonesia is that bad off, considering where where the league stands in Asia, considering where it sits across Asia. You would think we would be a little more competitive when it comes to the national team. Current world ranking 134th. Highest world ranking was 23rd. Lowest 176th. We're closer, much closer to that lowest world ranking that they've ever had than the highest. Most capped player, Pamungkas. All-time top scorer, Cientoro. Main stadium, 77,000 seater. And we're definitely moving to a much larger area than what we have in Semen Padang, which is a very small as far as Indonesia goes city, and far away from the centers. It's on an island that very much lacks the population compared to some other areas in Indonesia. Indonesia is quite large, mind you. When you really do a size comparison, Indonesia is huge. There's a lot of people in Indonesia, and this national team should be a lot better than it is. Now, Semen Padang had nothing in the national team setup. We had Guino in some of the youth ranks playing a bit. Hasn't played there in a while, especially as he's been more of a reserve for me. He lost that opportunity. But the one player who earned his way in over this last season was Zulfiandi, first getting appearances off the bench, and then as the season continued, becoming a first 11 contributor. I know what Zulfiandi offers, and in a 3-1-4-2, he is that defensive mid. Interesting spot as we've been playing him more as a center mid, but yeah, okay. All right, and as I presumed, we continue on with club and country managing both. So I assumed that that's how it worked, but I wasn't sure if it was automatic or if you had to do something special to maintain both. It's been a decade since I've coached a national team in this game, so there you have it. All right, their expectations. Minimum expectation is that the team qualify from the qualifiers. So does that mean to make the Asia Cup? I don't know what that's supposed to mean. That's really vague. Qualify from the qualifiers. We'll see that more clearly on the on another stage here. But there's your back and forth. Interesting how that's set. Okay. I'd like to welcome you to the Indonesian work strong as Indonesia. You have overall control of the entire international setup, including Indonesia B, 323s, 20s, 19s. The responsibility of hiring and firing the youth team head coaches or taking charge yourself. You do possess international experience in your coaching setup. Okay. Kind of one of the good things here is I can really keep an eye on young players to try to steal them and bring them into Semen Padang as long as I'm still the manager there. So I'm still going to be looking to move beyond club, I think, at this stage, and not just be the national team figure. First thing that I want to do, though, is see... I think I have to move forward at least today to see if there's any change. But next up, we have Saudi Arabia. That's not an easy matchup. That's a very competitive nation in terms of Asian nations. They're pretty good. We're in the qualifiers. We're in Group E. You know what? Let's check that out. All right, here we go. So Asian Cup Qualifiers. We want to qualify from this, meaning we need to be in the top 2 out of 4. Brunei, that's one that we should be well ahead of. I would imagine they're going to be ranked quite a bit lower than we are, but you would think that. 176, they are definitely below us. India is going to be pretty close, I would think, to where we are. They are ahead of us in the rankings currently, and yet the Hero I-League is quite a bit below our league, and that's why I think we should be able to beat them, even though they are ranked higher. Saudi Arabia, though, yes, that is the favorite of the group, as expected, but at 74th, none of the group are terribly good. But that Saudi Professional League, that's where you go, okay, not the look I was wanting here. Let's get for comparison, here are the leagues across Asia. League 1 for Korea has moved into the top spots in the rankings and is the only 3-star competition. China, you can see have slipped from first to fourth. Not doing very well lately, and that actually seems realistic to real life. They emerged on the scene by spending a ton of money to buy a whole bunch of older players, professionals across Europe, and bring them in to big stars to grow their league. Kind of like what US was doing, overpaying to bring players to the MLS to raise its profile. For the MLS, it worked. Now a lot of those players are gone, and now the MLS has a higher reputation than it had, but still not a terribly high reputation. But now they've become a more competitive league, and those players just haven't found a home there anymore. They were used for a purpose, and that purpose has served, and they moved on. China, on the other hand, did this and then didn't reap the financial benefits of it, didn't necessarily raise the profile on a permanent basis, didn't raise the profile of the league necessarily, the quality of the league too much. And now they find themselves in a lot of financial trouble. A lot of the Chinese teams are really struggling these days, and it shows. But anyway, they've dropped to fourth. There is Saudi Arabia, fifth best, up from seventh. That's the one we've got to watch out for. You would suspect that they're going to cruise to first place in our group. That means we need to get to second. We need to outplay the other two. The second division of Saudi Arabia is 16th. Okay, our League One was 27th a year ago. They're 20th now, but we don't have the new rankings out. That's going to be out in, I don't know, February or something. So this is basically for this past season, the rankings we're looking at right now. The Hero I-League is all the way down in 26th. It is slightly lower than Indonesia, and I think there's a real opportunity. There is a chance to beat India, even though they are the team picked second. We are the team picked third based on rankings. I think India is a team that could and should be beaten. But as you drop on down, gosh, where are we even going to find? Is it Myanmar? Myanmar is the other one in our group. 44th. Their National League is just 44th. So our League 2 is right there with them in the rankings. Here's the thing, though. Everybody should be beating up on Myanmar. We need to make sure we take care of that. If we can salvage a point in one of, I'm assuming, 2 matches against Saudi Arabia, that would be massive. But if we're being real, the real competition is going to come down to the 2 games that we play against India. If we can draw one, win one, that should be enough. If we win both, that's easily going to be enough. Okay, so our job security obviously relies on the Asian Cup Qualifiers. We've already taken a look at that one. The schedule for that's going to break down to our first match in April against Saudi Arabia, and then it's going to continue on throughout the year. So our 6 matches are going to take virtually the entirety of the next year to be played out. So there's that. Here's the reason why the job came available. Asian Football Federation Suzuki Cup, whatever that is, just concluded our role the day the job became available. So the previous manager was fired following getting knocked out of the group stage of that one. Where did they finish? Oh, no wonder. No wonder. Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, Philippines, and then Indonesia. Dead last, -7 goal differential. Philippines is much lower than Indonesia in the rankings. Myanmar, much lower. Thailand and Vietnam, Indonesia should have been the favorite from this group. Malaysia, Cambodia, Brunei, even they did significantly better. East Timor and Singapore. Out of these 10, in terms of league rankings, Indonesia should be the highest. Thailand, though, is not to be underestimated. Thailand is actually really good when it comes to the sport. outside of that, second would have been acceptable. But Indonesia, no wonder the previous manager was fired. That's a terrible performance right there. World Cup qualifying, the next World Cup being in 2026. We are just a couple days short of 2025. So we have a year and a half until that comes up. And of course, that's the US-led triumvirate. First round did not involve us. These are the lowest ranked. Guam there. Northern Mariana Islands still not getting into that mix. As in real life, they are almost full members. They have just stepped that up this year to the next stage of gaining full membership status, but they don't have it just yet. So some competitions they're getting invites to now, but not World Cup qualifying. They have not made that list just yet. But anyway, second round, Iran qualifying out of this group, Australia qualifying from this group in a tight competition, just knocking out Saudi Arabia, so they are no longer in the mix. You have Kuwait and South Korea qualifying from here. Ooh, close call for South Korea. There's Vietnam, who was knocked out. There's Brunei, who went without any -17 in 8 matches and without any points scored. China, Lebanon. There's Myanmar, who scored 9, beating up on Cambodia, it would seem, twice, and then getting one other win. You have Uzbekistan winning from there, UAE missing out. Qatar is first, with North Korea going second in that group. And here is a close call. This seems more like it. Second round, Group 7, Thailand with 22 points. Indonesia coming up short. Iraq actually 15 points. Surprising that Indonesia is able to finish ahead of Iraq. That seems about the right placement for Indonesia here. Like I said, Thailand, very good. Would have been perfectly acceptable if they had been second in that group that we had for that Suzuki Cup, that East Asian Cup that would seem based on the profile of teams there. Beating Iraq, beating Afghanistan and Kyrgyzstan, however you say it, beating them, that seems an expected result for Indonesia. Not quite making it to the final phase, but almost. Japan and Syria qualifying from the other group. There's Guam with 1 point. By the way, the southern Mariana Island is Guam. That's the one island to the south. The rest of the chain is the northern Mariana Islands. So for comparison, a lot of people know Guam, and them getting 1 point is probably a good result. But Chinese Taipei is one of those nations that have been beaten on occasion in Guam's and the northern Mariana Islands history. And so that puts it the final stage. A lot of these teams are going to qualify. I'm assuming if we look at the rules, is this eight nations qualify? This has to be an expanded. No, it's not. You're going to have 4 qualify for the World Cup. 5th makes the playoff. No, that has to amount to 8, does it not? Otherwise, how else do you get there? Top 4 teams from each group qualify, and then the team in 5th place goes into a playoff. So there's going to be 9 Asian nations qualifying for the World Cup. If we're talking about an expanded World Cup for 2026, that makes a lot of sense. Indonesia will not be part of it, so we are already out of that qualification stage, which means what we have is just this Asian Cup qualifier to worry about over the next year. We have 6 matches as national team manager and nothing else. Simple appointment to the position has done nothing to my ratings or my reputation. It remains the same, so we're going to have to do something on the job to make that next part happen. But we now have a year to look ahead. Our club, Semen Padang, I'm going to have a little bit of extra access towards the national pool to really see where the best players are and maybe try to get after them, especially those with the expiring contracts. in 24 hours from now, or just over 24 hours from now, as we conclude the year and those contracts expire tomorrow. That could be a good tool to help Seven Padang out a little bit. Of course, we're right there, so close. The wing back position in particular, that left side, if I can find something a little bit better, we're not losing any key players this year, which is a really good thing. And if we can add in the one or two more pieces to strengthen that squad a little bit further, and especially that left wing back position that is ridiculously weak, I really like the chances of Seven Padang getting that little bit higher and competing for the league title, getting into that top couple positions to where they then qualify for Asian competition the following year. But our focus this next season is going to be mostly on what we do as the national team manager, those 6 matches, and in particular what we do against India in the quest to qualify for that competition where we're out of the others entirely. So really not much to do on the job for a little while, besides sit back and manage the other squad. I know we didn't get any matches. In fact, I've only gone forward one day in this episode, but I'm super excited to take on a different venture, see something different happening, and manage a national team and a club for a little bit. Can't hurt our reputation unless we do awful. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.